Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, episode 67. My name is Eddie Rivkin. I'm joined as always by Chris Chapman from Fox Sports Las Vegas. This episode, along with all others, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com, your home for everything in Las Vegas. If you're coming to Las Vegas and you need to know what to do, you need to go to the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.net. If you want restaurant tips, where to go? Las Vegas Advisor. If you want nightclub tips, where to go? Las Vegas Advisor. Show tips, strip club tips, anything, everything Las Vegas. Go to www.lasvegasadvisor.com. And by my very good friend, Dr. John Pierce at Ageless Forever, www.agelessforever.net. Dr. Pierce has been my guy for many years. He's been my friend for over 30. And if you're tired of going into the doctor's office and not knowing who you're going to see and wondering how qualified the people you're talking to really are, it's time for a change. You need to do better for yourself. Look up my friend, Dr. John Pierce, at www.agelessforever.net. I promise it's worth the trip. It's worth the call. It's worth going in and talking to him to see how he can make you the best possible you. On to the episode. The Golden Knights are 25 wins, 14 losses, 5 overtime losses. They have 55 points. They're coming off a very good, solid win on Monday, Martin Luther King Day, a matinee against the Nashville Predators. They defeated the Predators 4-1. The storyline of the game was really simple. Captain Mark Stone picked up the Golden Knights, put them on his shoulders, and carried them to victory. He had a natural hat trick, a goal in the first and 2 in the second, and it just seemed that the captain was going to will his team back to the consistent play that is expected of them, but we also haven't seen from them over the last 2 or 3 weeks. So, Chap, before we get to the standings and things like that, what were your takeaways from Monday's matinee against Nashville?
Well, they needed a bounce back following the disappointing loss to Calgary. Only the second time the Flames have come into Las Vegas and walked away with a W. I thought they played well in the Calgary game. They just were unable to put the puck in the net. So they needed a good effort and a good bounce back and another consistent game, which they got on Monday against Nashville. Look, I mean, what else can you say about Mark Stone? The guy, he's the captain for a reason. He's one of the best players in the NHL for a reason. Probably one of the, it sounds crazy to say, but he's probably one of the most underrated, underappreciated players in the NHL because he doesn't have the highlight reel goals like Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews, but he's good. And he's good when he needs to be good. And I think that's kind of what separates him from a lot of the other players in the league. And he needed to be good on Monday. He needed to put the team on his shoulders, much like he did in the playoffs last year, especially in the Stanley Cup final, in the final game where he scored a hat trick. Of course, we all remember that. But, it was a good game by the Golden Knights. I thought they were good in a lot of areas. Like the focus will be on Stone scoring the 3 goals. But I thought Logan Thompson played really well. Hard to really blame him for the 1 goal that did go in. I thought a guy they just sent down to the minors in Jonas Rondbjerg, I thought he played a really good game. And what I noticed, what you notice about Jonas is he's consistent. You know what you're going to get with him, and you got that on Monday. The guy's good on the penalty kill. He doesn't make mistakes. He generally doesn't get beat. He's in the right place when he needs to be. He's got a very high hockey IQ, and I think he's the kind of guy where if he had an opportunity, he would be a full-time member of this team. And look, Jonathan Marchessault, I know it's an empty net goal. Don't give a shit. It was an empty net goal. It went in. He scored. He made comments on Saturday night that he needed to start putting the puck in the net. I could give a fuck if it was an empty net goal or not. It went in. Marchessault's off the schneid, got the goal. So I think all in all, it was a really good game for the Golden Knights against it. Look, Nashville, I know I've said look a bunch of times, but Nashville had gotten points in 7 straight road games. They're currently a playoff team. So it's a good win against a team that's going to be competing for a playoff spot against a team that's played really well on the road. I don't know what else you could ask for from this team. And now the road gets a little bit tougher. You've got 5 straight games against Metro Division teams, 2 of them against the Rangers, who I think are going to be a real force come playoff time in April and May. So we'll just have to see. But I want to see a little more consistency, and I think we're going to get that.
Well, I want to talk about Ronberg because your point is absolutely correct. I think it was the best game that he's played since he's been up. He is, and this is a huge high compliment, William Karlsson-like defending the puck and on the PK. And he's not William Karlsson. He's only a kid. But he reminds me of William Karlsson because, like you said, he is incredibly defensively responsible. He doesn't seem to get scattered or chase the puck or, get out of position. I think much like a number of the kids that have come up since Bruce Cassidy has been coach, he's earning trust. He's earning more ice times. They are putting him out in more high-stress situations, and he's getting better. He's not looking at all out of place on the ice. I have no idea if he has any offensive upside or if he's a bottom 6 guy. We might not know that for a couple of years if he gets the opportunity. But as important as the defensive structure is for the Golden Knights, and it's been harped on and taught and over and over and over, he seems to really sort of have a grasp of exactly what is expected of him, and he's delivering it. With regards to Logan Thompson, this game was important. He has had some struggles. There has been some inconsistency. He has put up, he had a pretty solid start against Calgary, not bad goals, but he needed to have a good start and a good win. And hopefully these are foundation minutes, not just for the points in the statistics, but for Logan Thompson's psyche, which is perhaps a little bit fragile. But he is a pretty emotional goaltender. And if he could string together 2 or 3 of these sorts of efforts going in, like you said, 5 games in a row against the Metro, starting tomorrow night against the Rangers, that would really give them a little bit of a soft landing to even consider bringing Adin Hill back when, until he's absolutely 100% positive and ready. Speaking of Adin Hill, that will be the perfect transition to the next topic, which is the injury bug. 2 seasons ago, the injury bug decimated them. They didn't respond. They didn't make the playoffs. Last year, the injury bug seemed to have left them alone. They went through the playoffs pretty much injury-free, and we all know what the result was on the 13th of June. But this year, the injury bug it's out of control again. Adin Hill, Ben Hutton, even though he's not a regular 6, he's played more games than Shea Theodore because Shea Theodore is on that list. Now you have Jack Eichel having surgery, William Carrier, Will Karlsson, and I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. I thought there was 7.
Adin Hill.
Anyway, just you can look at the number. Yeah, Danny Miromanov. You can just look at the number of fingers we're hoisting here. That's a lot of regulars out of the lineup. And
Patera's hurt too.
So this is, is this comeuppance? Is this the great payback for the Stanley Cup, or is this just the game?
Well, I think it's just the game. Like I said to someone yesterday, because they were kind of panicking, hey, what is Vegas going to do? Jack now week to week. We don't know how long he's going to be out. I don't think Jack is going to be out for the remainder of the season. So I don't think we need to panic there. I think we're going to get Karlsson back before too long. I think he'll be back right after the All-Star game. These are just my guess. I don't have any inside knowledge. I'm just guessing. Shea Theodore, I have no idea. Will Carrier, I have no idea. Adin Hill, I have no idea. But if you can get consistent goaltending from Logan Thompson and you can get Karlsson back, I feel like you can tread water heading into the final stretch of the season. What's important is that these guys are healthy at the right time. I don't think they're going to miss the playoffs. Even if Eichel's out for 2 months, I think they'll be okay in that regard. The question is, where are you going to be seated? Because Vancouver right now seems to be the team that's running away with the division. And Edmonton is a house on fire. They've won 11 straight. I think they've won 19 out of their last 21 games. They're coming. But if you're Vegas, I don't think it really matters. You could win the Stanley Cup as a 2 or 3 seed. I think this team can go on the road and win games. I'm not too concerned about that. What I'm concerned about is just making sure you get enough points to get into the playoffs. Because once this team gets into the playoffs, and the big if they're fully healthy, I still think they're one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the league. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So, there's a couple different ways to look at it. And only Kelly McCrimmon knows, well, I guess not just Kelly, but only people in a small circle know what the status is on Adin Hill, what the status is on Jack Eichel, how much longer Carey is going to be out, when Theodore is going to come back. The fact that the team's not panicking tells me that they're pretty confident that this team is going to be healthy at the right time. Now, if you start to see some rumors about trades and such, and maybe, they start doing salary cap gymnastics again, then maybe the little light bulb in the head goes off and you say, oh, well, maybe these guys are going to make a move. But they don't have a ton of cap space, and there's really not a lot out there. I mean, one guy, and I shouldn't even go down the rabbit hole because, like I said, I feel like there's a lot of time before you need to make any type of move. But a guy,
Phil Kessel. Say it. Say Phil
no,
Kessel.
I wasn't going to say Phil Kessel. I was going to say Sean Monahan.
Okay.
He's having a really good season for Montreal. He's a former first-round pick. I think he was a top 10 pick of Calgary. He's been in the league a bit, but he's having a really good season for the Canadiens, and he makes under $2 million. Montreal's not going anywhere. They're not going to make the playoffs. But if you're the Canadiens and you have a guy like Sean Monahan, and he's probably going to be in demand because he's having a really good season, he's a guy who early in his career put up big numbers. So I think that's a name to maybe keep an eye on, even if they are healthy. That's a name to keep an eye on because he's cheap and he's having a really good year, and he's a UFA at the end of the season. Other than that, I don't think it's time to push panic. You just got to wait and see. If it starts to come out that Adin Hill's out for the year, if Jack Eichel or Will Karlsson are going to be on the shelf longer than anticipated, then maybe you start to go down the avenue of, well, what do we need to do to improve our team? But right now, this is a team that before the All-Star break last year, they were kind of playing a similar type of game. Once that bye week hit, they turned it up a notch. And they were by far and away the best team in the league. I don't care about Boston's President's Trophy. I don't care about what the Lightning did. I don't care about what Dallas did or Edmonton. Golden Knights were the best team the second half of the season, and there's a reason why they won the Stanley Cup. They had the best coach, and they were the best team. They played the best hockey. Now, in order to do that, you got to be fully healthy. And I think it's going to come where this team is healthy. Look, we're 44 games into the season. Tomorrow will be 45. They've had their number one lineup once against a team they're playing on Saturday who beat them 3-0 at the old PPG Arena in Pittsburgh. Was it PPG Paints Arena? I'm sorry. But
yeah,
one time in 44 games, you've had your number one lineup. So the fact that this team is where they are, given the ferocity and the way they've been ravaged by the injury bug, I think it's a testament to just how deep of an organization they are, and the fact that they're not panicking. I'm not concerned. Now, talk to me in a month, and if these guys aren't back and they've lost a bunch more games, then maybe we start talking about concerns. But right now, they're in second place. They've got a 6-point lead on Edmonton. I know Edmonton's got a bunch of games in hand, but they're in a good spot right now, despite what they're dealing with adversity-wise.
Now, here's a disclaimer. I have no inside information. This next statement is not based on any facts, any real knowledge, and I'm not keeping a secret. So that being said, let's go down the rabbit hole for a couple of seconds. Eichel, when we saw him after the game that he was hurt, said he felt fine. And then the next day, he didn't, he was a late scratch, and now it becomes surgery. And surgery on lower body, to me, never says week to week. I mean, it's hip, knee, or ankle, basically, right?
Yeah.
So, God forbid, and again, I have no knowledge whatsoever. I'm just spitballing for an interesting take on things. What happens if Jack Eichel won't be ready to the playoffs and the Golden Knights pick up $10.5 million in salary cap space?
Well, I mean, that gives you a lot of room to play with in terms of where you can go. I mean, look, there's some bad teams with some good players. $10.5 million is a lot of money. A guy I like is Elias Lindholm from Calgary. Now, Calgary at this particular moment in time, they may feel like they're still in the playoff hunt. I don't think they're a playoff team. So Elias Lindholm would be a guy that maybe you look at. Again, UFA at the end of the year, good player, having a really good season. Look, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to predict because you don't know who's going to. That's a bit of a problem with the league, that there's so much parity that there's not a lot of separation in the standings. I mean, teams like Columbus are out of it. And the question becomes, would Columbus be willing to move a Patrick Laine if the price is right? Then, of course, if you're the Golden Knights, you run into the issue of, well, what do we do when free agency hits on July 1st and we're so many millions over the cap? Do you not resign specific players? Do you let guys walk? I mean, I don't know the answer to that. But the Golden Knights do have a first-round pick this year. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that that the Golden Knights and Kelly McCrimmon go out and go big game hunting. I mean, that's what they like to do.
That's what this segment's that's what this segment is all about. Just listen, we want Jack back, right? So don't get anything twisted about this. I'm just saying, and I asked you last episode to put on your Kelly McCrimmon hat and glasses. But what could you do with $10.5 million?
You can do a lot.
God forbid, 15 and change if him and Aiden Hill can't come back.
Yeah. I mean,
Holy
there's
shit.
so many. Yeah, there's so many variables here. I mean, like when you look at guys who are free agents next year, I mean, because I think that's where you go. Mm-hmm. In terms of guys who are free agents at the end of the season, Jake Gensel is a name that comes up. I mean, he's not a center, but he's a guy who puts up some pretty prolific fucking numbers. Multiple time All-Star. I know at least one All-Star game. He's been there at least once. I think he's been there a couple times. But, that still gives you money under the cap to play with because Gensel's contract is $6 million. Now, if I'm the Penguins, I certainly think he's part of my plan for the future. So maybe I'm not so willing to let him go. But there's other guys out there. You look at teams that are, I mean, I know the Capitals hypothetically still think they're in it. Technically they are, but Anthony Mantha is another guy who comes to mind.
Garbage. I'm a Red Wings guy. He's hot garbage. Next.
I mean, look, you could go to Jason Zucker. He plays for the Coyotes. Coyotes aren't going to make the playoffs. There's a guy that maybe you look at if you're the Golden Knights as well. I mean, he's got Vegas ties.
He's a local, I think, right?
Yeah. He grew up in Vegas. So, there's options out there. I think another guy that maybe, and I don't know how he would fit in the locker room, but if we're just throwing names out there, maybe you look at San Jose and a guy who's making $4.5 million. But one of the things he excels at is putting the puck in the net on the power play. And I think you know where I'm going to go. Mike Hoffman.
Oh, yeah.
And look, it's San Jose.
Prolific.
He's 34. He's basically on his last maybe one or two contracts in the league. Could he come in and fill a role for you on the power play if you needed to make a move? probably. I mean, that's really all he excels at these days. But in his day, he was a fantastic player. He's 34
Sniper.
now. You know, father time has caught up with him. But I mean, there's names out there. But you know, Eddie, I think we just got to wait and see. The guy, like I said, I'll go back to Sean Monahan. I think he's a guy that, A, because of the salary, and B, because of the season he's having, and C, because he's a guy who he really isn't that old. And not too long ago, he was a really high draft pick. I mean, you look at what he's making, and he plays center, which is obviously, you know, a huge deal for this team, who right now is short on center help. But you know, he's pretty inexpensive, and I think that's probably the most important thing. He's got 11 goals and 14 assists on the season. He's played every game the Canadians have played, and he's only making 1.9 million. So I think even if Eichel is healthy and even if Carlson comes back healthy, you can never have too much depth. They went out and got Teddy Bluger last year, and he was a guy who didn't play every night. But when he was in there, he was pretty good. And he filled the role. He filled the job. And I think that's the type of role that Sean Monahan could play for this team. I mean, like I said, only 29 years old. And you look at some of his history, you know, like I said, when he came in to the league, he put up some really big numbers. You know, early in his career, he had a 34 and a 31 goal season just a few years ago. He only played 65 games last year. And he's putting up pretty good numbers for Montreal. So, only 25 games last year. So he's dealt with some injuries, but I think he's a guy who could fill a role for you if you need it.
All right, enough Fantasy Island stuff. I just thought it would be fun to fly down that rabbit hole. And again, for the last time, I don't know anything. I'm not hypothecating, or I'm not putting anything out there in the universe. I want Jack Eichel healthy. I want the regular lineup that we expect to compete for the cup to come back healthy. But it was a fun few minutes thinking about what you could do with $10 or $15 million worth of salary cap. The next issue that I want to talk about is, how difficult is it for the players that are in the lineup to find some chemistry? It seems like you said, the lineup has only been the lineup one game. But more than that, because the injuries have come from the top line and from the fourth line and from the wing and the center and the D, there hasn't been really an opportunity for the Golden Knights to even play the same lineup for 2 or 3 or 4 games a year. And there is some inconsistency, is probably the right word, but it's expected inconsistency. I mean, White Cloud and Haig have played together since the minors, right?
Yeah,
they know
Chicago
each
Wolves.
other, right? Are you concerned with the fact, not the injury bug, but just the fact that they just have to continue to run the line blender over and over and over again? Just for the last couple of games, we finally saw Stevenson and Stone's chemistry sort of get back to where it was.
Yeah, I think
And
Stone even mentioned that in the post game, that, you know, it had been a while since they played together, and as the game wore on, that they were able to reconnect with each other. But yeah, I think maybe more concern on the special teams aspect of it than I think during the 5-on-5, because 5-on-5 you have multiple opportunities a night to get out there and play with guys who maybe you haven't played or practiced with that much. But I feel like as the game goes on, you're going to find chemistry. These guys are all highly intelligent. They're all able to pick up on nuances and stuff. But I think on the special teams, where it's so much more scheme specific, I think it's probably a little bit more difficult. Maybe on the kill more than anything, because so much of that is about reads and spacing and, you know, being in the right place, not getting beat, chasing, not being over aggressive. And so I feel like when you're constantly making changes on the penalty kill, I feel like there would be some chemistry issues there and continuity issues, because it just strikes me as a type of job where you are so predicated on familiarity. And I would think power play is probably not too far behind that, because, again, so much of it is based on timing and
And
being in the
reads.
right place, reads. And if you haven't played with a guy a lot, like they put Brendan Brisson, out there, and he hadn't really played with anybody. So outside of, outside of preseason, which, doesn't mean shit. But I think as things go on, we'll see guys get a little more comfortable. The key is, hopefully the injury bullshit is behind this team now. You've lost your captain, you lost your number 2 center, you've lost a really good fourth line winger, you've lost your number 1 goalie, you've lost your anchor on the power play, and probably your best puck moving defenseman. Hopefully the bullshit is done. And
Yeah,
we're
it's a mash unit. There's
yeah, I
no,
mean,
it really, and some people might not get that reference, but you can go ahead and Google MASH anytime you want. Medical Army Surgical Hospital. Fantastic show in the 70s and 80s.
Alan Alda, Jamie
And
Farr.
and a whole bunch of others.
Yeah. Those are the two I remember.
And
I only watched
Colonel
it in
Sherman
syndication.
T. Potter, who coined the phrase horse pucky.
There we go.
Because he couldn't say horse shit on television. I want to talk about one more player whose game has seemed to evolve quite a bit this year from what we saw last year. Last year, he scored 15 goals in a season where some people who consider themselves pundits, who shall go nameless, said he wouldn't even make the roster. Potted 15 goals in his rookie year, and that's Paul Cotter. You and I have both noticed an appreciable improvement in a number of aspects of his game. He is much harder to play against now. He's much heavier on the puck. He's driving the play in the offensive zone much, much more than he was last year. Last year, he was pretty much a sniper. He was a finisher, and he finishes well, scores a lot of goals. But this year, his game seems to have really sort of rounded into shape. He's still not killing penalties. I don't think that's his role. He has got a little bit of power play 2 time in the last couple of games, and a lot of that is probably forced by injury. Yes, we understand that. But besides being a fan of the guy, I'm really impressed with how hard he has become for other teams to play against, especially when he has the puck in the Golden Knights offensive in the scoring zone. He's turning himself into a big, mean bully of a kid. And I think it can only bode well for him going forward.
Yeah. As you mentioned, he's a kid, and he just turned 24 about 2 months ago, but he's a big kid. He's over 6 feet tall. He's probably about 215. I mean, I don't know what they list him at, but I mean, he's definitely not a small guy, and it feels like he's bulked up. And we saw the evolution in Nick Hague from kid to man. We've seen that with Paul Cotter, from happy-go-lucky kid, happy to be in the NHL, to a man. And, the goals are going to come. He's only got 5 goals this year, which is 5 more than I'll ever score in the NHL. But, the goals are going to come for him. He seems to be improving every single night. And what I like about Paul is, there was a game, I don't remember if it was the Boston game. I think it was the Boston game, where he had a shift where he almost put the puck in his own net. And then the same shift down at the other end of the ice, he commits an offensive zone penalty, which obviously is not something that's going to endear yourself to the coach. But it was how he handled himself and played after that, the maturity to, all right, you know what? I fucked up. It's behind me. I got to go back out there and play my game. I can't dwell on what I just did. And he was fine the rest of the game. Golden Knights beat the Bruins 2-1 in overtime. And I think what we've seen is a maturation of a player very quickly, because it was only 2 years ago that he made his NHL debut. I mean, 2 years ago, most of us never really thought much of Paul Cotter. We never thought he was going to be a Stanley Cup champ. And sure enough, his name is on the Stanley Cup just a year after he made his debut, which has got to be an unbelievable feeling. But he has grown, and we've seen the strides in his game where, as you mentioned, he's really, really hard to knock off the puck. He uses his size and strength as an advantage. You know, we've seen guys, and I don't know if we would typically call Paul a power forward, but we've seen guys who are, quote, power forwards in the league never be able to use their strength and their size and their power and their speed, because Paul's a really fast skater. He's a great skater. They've never really been able to put all of that together. But Paul, considering where he plays in the lineup, he's done a really good job.
Everywhere.
Yeah, he's up and down the lineup. Like, you don't know if you're going to, when we show up to the rink, we don't know if we're going to see him playing on the top line or we're going to see him on the third line. But he's a guy who I think fits. He just fits well with the organization. He fits well with what they want in players. Good, strong character guy who is a team first guy, willing to listen to coaching, willing to do anything necessary to stay in the league and help his team win. And, you know, we've seen a lot of growth in his game this year.
Speaking of Paul Cotter.
There we go.
Hey, there he is.
What's up, guy?
I love it.
Right? We did our homage. Oh,
yeah, there we go.
There we go.
On one side, eh?
That's it. We're going. Paul Cotter, ladies and gentlemen, joining the podcast, episode 67. Thanks, Paul. We appreciate you doing this. They told us before we get to the really important fun questions, we've got to ask you some hockey stuff. So go ahead, chap. Fire the first one.
All right. So first of all, before we get into that, man, I'll ask you after about what goes into a good hat. But notice with your game, it's kind of like you've evolved into like this hybrid between Jack Eichel and Will Carrier, where you skate really well with the puck. You've become really, really difficult to move from the puck. But then you also have this physicality in your game where you can get in and bruise with guys. So how did that evolution kind of occur, and what was behind it? Did the coaching staff come to you and tell you this is the way we wanted you to play, or was it something where you kind of decided on your own that that's the type of player you were going to be?
Thank you for the kind words, firstly. But yeah, I think honestly, it was probably because of when I was younger, I was always the smallest guy. My skill is always there. Probably one of the most skilled guys in every camp or whatever it was, but I was on the ice 24/7. So skill came pretty easy. And then once the guys got a little bigger, stronger, and, guys are starting to get chest hair and stuff. And I'm like, whoa, hey, what's going on here? So I think I had to learn how to use my skill and use my smaller size to an advantage. And then I honestly still kind of to this day, when people say, hey, like use your body, use your size, I'm like, I guess I am a little bigger now. So I think the combination of, I guess, what I had to deal with when I was younger versus now being stronger than most, I think that's what helped me have that little like in between game where you can use the skill, but also the tenacious on the puck and being able to be physical and outmuscle guys to hold on to pucks is a trait of mine too. So I guess that's probably the reason of the balance.
It seems like you're driving the play more. I mean, last year you put up 15 goals. There's no contesting or discussion about your ability to finish. But this year we've noticed in the offensive zone, you're holding on to the puck a lot longer. You've got some absolutely beautiful primary assists where you're developing the play below the goal line. And is that something that you're conscientious about, or is that more what the play is giving you?
Partly, yeah. Yeah, it seems lately, yeah, I've been the setup guy. So, a lot different this year. Yeah, I mean, I think that I could have had the scoring touch I did last year. Weird little bounces aren't happening. Normally they kind of did for me last year, but that's all going to happen. I'm sure next year is going to be different, and the following year after that. So, just how it goes. But yeah, I've been really conscious about that part of my game beneath the goal line, and I think that's something that obviously can. If you're good at that, I think you can kind of play with anybody, right? You can play on a fourth line where that's really what guys try and do is just have puck possession, get it down there and get scoring opportunities, get offensive zone faceoffs for the other guys. Whereas if you play in the first line, I feel like I can protect the puck, get to a spot where I can get one of those guys the puck and fit in that role. So I think that's a big part of my game, and I did a really good job of it in the AHL. I think it's started to take me a little bit to get the speed, get the physicality down to where now I'm doing it really well, and trying to master that part of my game. So yeah, that is something I'm conscious of for sure. And I think as guys are starting to realize that I'm winning those battles and able to separate from guys, they're able to kind of read what their next move is, and it makes it easier for me to find them in an open spot or something, which Carlson did really well earlier this year.
It's funny you kind of mentioned the year to year you can't really plan. Like, you can plan out what you want to do, but there's so many things that change during the course of a season. But one constant in your game is you're highly adaptable. Like you kind of mentioned playing on the first line, you mentioned playing on the fourth line, but how important is it for a young guy? You're only 24. So how important is it for a young guy like you to be highly adaptable in a league, and more specifically with a coach like Bruce Cassidy, who isn't shy about shuffling the lines up?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of my most valuable assets, I guess you could say, because you have guys that are really skilled. They're a first line, second line guy. They're really good on the power play, and then you have guys that are fourth line grinders, or guys that can't really make skill plays. So for whatever reason, I guess this organization's been having trouble with injuries throughout the past couple of years, and I think it's very helpful for them to say, all right, well, this guy's hurt, we can throw Paul in there. Or that guy's hurt, we can throw him down there. So obviously it's nicer to play up in the lineup, but when you have somebody that's versatile to play up and down the lineup, I think that's good. And I think we have a lot of guys that are like that. So it is really cool. So it's just kind of playing with certain guys. You got to play a touch different with some, but try not to change your game up too much.
Do you feel any, I don't want to maybe say pressure, is there more of a burden on somebody like you who, like you said, does play up and down the lineup? The injuries are from everywhere. They're on the center, they're on the wing, they're on the off wing. Do you feel any more, I guess, pressure to just be more durable and to be more valuable up and down the lineup? And is the team itself, is there a different sort of a mindset? Are you grinding harder knowing that, heck, you don't necessarily knows who's going to be in the lineup each night?
Yeah, that's definitely a sense. I mean, that's all part of this job. I mean, you talk about it with friends and family and stuff. It's like, hey, I could be traded during this call right now. It's that sense of being protected, and hey, I can just play this season. It's like, no, you got to take it shift by shift, and not even game by game. It's, you have a bad shift, well, you might not be going out for the next one. So but right now is a unique situation. We have guys that are called up from the AHL. Brish just had his first game, so I think when you look at it from a different standpoint of trying to be a little bit more positive, okay, now, now I guess I could say I'm in a spot where I'm more experienced than some of these guys, which I don't think I've had really yet in my career. So it's like, okay, maybe my leash is going to be a little bit longer than some. And that'll give you confidence. Maybe you make a play that you normally don't. And a lot of guys are in that situation. Maybe the guys that are kind of in my spot now that are getting more opportunity. Now they're on the power play, now that they can kind of relax a little bit. So it could kind of go either way. It depends on really how you take it. There is a lot of pressure because now you're getting that opportunity. So let's see what you do with it. But also, I mean, that's all you really wanted is that opportunity, right? So kind of both ways. I mean, mentally, it's just really how you take it. So I try and look at it from the positive. I know, during the game, you kind of get on yourself a little bit if you're not doing how you want it. But that's the whole thing.
Now, all right, one more hockey question, Chap, then we're going to get to the good stuff.
All right. So you mentioned the younger guys, and you being the guy, I mean, you were kind of like the first guy who went through the A, and you had the long road, and you had to work your ass off to get to the league. But now that you've done that, you've made it, and there's some younger guys coming up, Pavs and Brisson, and obviously, you've played a bit with Rombier, but how much of a mentorship role do you take with some of these younger guys that have come through the ranks now, because you were kind of like the first guy to do that?
Yeah, it is weird. It is weird to look back on that, but I think when I first came up, there was so much. I mean, these guys are so great. I mean, you could go up and down our lineup, and there's probably, if these guys were on other teams, there's probably 10 to 12 guys that would be captains on any other team. So they did such a good job welcoming me, and I was really the only young guy, I guess, that year. Lecision a little bit before he went in the New York area, and Ronnie every now and then. So, but they were good. I mean, I think I'm pretty good with taking jokes and giving jokes too. So it probably made it a little easier on them to chirp me and get into a rhythm of things. But guys that maybe aren't that outgoing, it's nice for me to be able to go and talk to them. Hey, don't worry about this, or hey, make sure, like, I made the mistake of doing this last year, make sure you do that. So it's nice. It's nice to be able to see guys in that situation and be able to help them in little tiny areas. So, I mean, the rest will take care of itself. They're there for a reason, but maybe if I can help them not get chirped along the way, it'll be good.
Speaking of chirps, Mr. Cotter, I don't know if you ever heard this, but Keegan Colasar, he never really gives us much in the chirp department. But you know where I'm going with this?
You could be going down 20 different roads right now.
Okay, well, I'm gonna take you back to the Winter Classic, and we all know that the entrance wasn't your preferred entrance, but Keegan, in his very first statement to the media, and it didn't air anywhere, we just happened to be in the room, said that Paul Cotter was the only one that didn't need an Elvis wig.
Very nice, Coley.
Last season, Joe and I chatted with you and talked about chirps and pranks and things like that. So I don't know if you ever heard that one, but I think that I just handed you a receipt for Keegan Colasar.
Always keep them.
Always keep receipts. So did you just not dig the Elvis thing, or what were you? Let me put it to you this way. You said in the game before the trip, you said it wasn't your first choice. And we didn't push you to tell us because we knew you wouldn't tell us. But can you tell us now what your first choice would have been for the walk-in?
I didn't really think about it. I didn't really have a chance to really think about it. I think one of the guys kind of bring up the idea, and then everyone else was just like, all right, sure, yeah, let's do it. That sounds pretty good for Vegas. But I don't know. I think there was it's a Halloween costume. So, I mean, it was fun. It was cool. I don't know. I don't know what I would have probably thought of, but wouldn't have been that for sure.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Now, recently you were mic'd up. So How did you like that? And is it something you want to do again in the future?
Normally I don't mind. I kind of forget anyways that I am. Half the stuff they probably can't even use, but yeah, I don't mind. It's probably cool to get some of that stuff. I mean, I think the coolest thing is to be able to look at it like down the road, like 10, 15 years from now, you look back and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that game, or oh yeah, why did I say that? Like what? And um, it's cool to see like some of the footage that other people don't see. Like I get tried the other day. I got chirped by I don't even know who it was, Dowdy maybe or something, and I don't know. It's like, what, dude? What are you?
He's a good talker. He's a good talker. So I wouldn't be
Yeah, he
surprised if
is.
it was him.
Yeah. He's always saying something.
Now you're no longer a rookie, so you're off the hook for the rookie dinner. So how much are you looking forward to having guys like Pavel and maybe Yuri and maybe Brisson and some of the other guys taking you out to dinner this year?
That will be a treat. Yeah, I don't know if I've had one. Maybe one in Henderson, but I went. I mean, geez, I went from Null up to USHL up to college. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if I've ever really not been a rookie. So it'll be nice to not have to look down at my shoes every 10 seconds during the dinner. So it'll be fun.
Now, how does that work? Because like I think last year you were the only rookie, right? And you're taking 20 guys out to dinner. So I can't imagine that's a fun night for you.
No, it wasn't cheap.
I heard it was in Toronto. Where did you guys end up going?
Yeah, Toronto. I think it was Catch Steak.
Ooh,
I believe.
Eddie's a big steak guy.
Yeah,
that hurt.
One of the catches. I don't know. There's two of them, I think. But yeah, you do a little skit and answer some questions that you probably don't want to answer, and whatever. It's a really fun night. I think for a team, it's awesome. Everybody gets a couple beers and everybody's laughing, having a good time. So it's definitely a highlight of the year, especially when you're not one of the rookies.
Speaking of drinks and dining and stuff like that, I ran into you in Florida last year during the finals when we were at the hotel and we were having dinner and you were out with the rest of the Black Aces, and you told me that you found a new favorite cocktail.
That was due to Jonathan Quick. I'm grabbing dinner with him tonight, so that's a funny story. But yeah, he does a dirty martini with Tito's and a double regular olive. And I was like, what, dude? And he's like, no, you're trying it. I'm like, all right. So I tried it. It was absolutely terrible. And he's like, second one's better. I'm like, all right. And then that's the joke, is it's always the second one. So I was like, yeah, I'll start trying it, and kind of fell off that train, but it was a funny joke. I'm sure I'll probably have one tonight with him.
So what's the drink of choice now?
Geez, I guess a Manhattan. I like a Manhattan.
Very nice, considering you're on your way to Manhattan in a few days.
True. Yeah.
So I know we kind of moved on from the hockey questions, but you've played with Jonathan Quick, you played with Alex Pietrangelo. Just you've been able to play with a couple of guys who are going to be surefire Hall of Fame players. So when I know it's really early in your career, but how much are you able to appreciate that now as a 24-year-old to say, you know what, I'm playing with guys who are going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. When I take my kids to Toronto and I see my name on the Stanley Cup, I'm going to see them enshrined as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think that for a while there, I didn't really appreciate it, I think, as much as I should have. Just because, I guess you don't really know any better, right? You come into an organization that's awesome. You're living in Vegas. Everything's great. We're winning. We're playing with guys that I grew up watching, and I've known all of their names, and it's now you're buddies with them and stuff. So, for some of these guys, like, even the young guys. It's part of what I tell them too is like, you could be in a city that I don't want to, cancel out any cities, but you could be here and, the weather sucks and there's nowhere to go to eat. And, people are kind of all gloomy, everything's whatever. And, you're playing with a team that's not really that good versus a whole new world over here. So guys that really haven't had that taste of not Vegas, it's hard. It's, obviously a different lifestyle. So, just, keeping that in my head and making sure I'm happy that, kind of count your blessings in a way and make sure some of the younger guys understand that it's, they're going through some hard stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a pretty awesome experience, especially being here.
I want to talk for a second. I want to nerd out on warm-ups and superstitions. I watch the warm-ups really intently. I watch the first part from the visitor side, from the goal line, because there's a lot of times there's things you can pick up.
Right.
The best example is when Winnipeg came back here for Game 5 last year in the playoffs. With no disrespect to the Winnipeg Jets, they were more looking at the female talent in the crowd than they were paying attention to what was on the ice. And I said to my good friend Lindsey Brown that this game is pretty well over. They're checked out. They're not even here. But you, Mr. Cotter, have some unusual warm-up superstitions. And it starts off with a battery-charged water bottle in the back. But I want to know about the last couple minutes of warm-up. 3 flips from outside from the neutral zone. And then I'm going to ask you the really difficult question. So how did that come? You seem to just sort of be in your own little world, spinning around, giving pucks to kids. But then with a minute and a half later, it's 3 flips to the net and we're gone.
Yep. A lot of warm up stuff that I do. Yeah, there's a few things that I guess you can catch if you watch that. I don't know if I should say it, but yeah. Anyways, at the end there, I normally never used to really look up in the crowd or pay attention to anything that was going on. And I think one game somebody said there's a kid wearing a Cotter jersey who's banging on the glass, and I didn't give him a puck. So people were like, "Wow, Cotter's a piece of work." And I'm like, "Well, I don't look in the stands." You know what I mean? So then I was like, "All right, well, I mean, these kids think the world of us, so maybe once a warm up, I'll flip one over to whoever's by the penalty box." But yeah, I don't know. I've always done it since really early in my career, and I've always just kind of flipped a puck as high as I could and see if it could land in the net. And now it's like, all right, this thing better go in or else we're going to have a terrible game. So I always just try to put one in. Not really, but I always just try to put one in before I get off. I always keep a puck too.
Damn it, you totally stole that. I was going to ask you how your collection of warm-up pucks is, because I see you always snag one.
Yeah.
I was totally going to bust you on that. It's always one right down the left side of the pants.
Yeah. That's good. Normally, I don't think anybody knows that one, but I keep one if I score that game. And if I don't, I hide it somewhere in Nick Waz's stall the next game.
Nice.
Wazzy came up to me the other day and was like, "Dude, I don't want any more of these pucks." And he's like, I'm like, "No, dude, it's our thing." He's like, "No, like I don't want to," you know what I mean? I'm like, "Oh yeah, true, yeah, all right." So,
I'm just trying to picture Nick Waugh coming up to you and saying that too.
He's hilarious. He didn't know who it was for the longest time too. He's like, he was getting pissed. He's like, "Where these pucks keep coming from? Like, who's doing this?"
Now, who told him?
Yeah, who ratted you out?
I don't know, but I have a theory that it was either Marchie or Stevie.
Oh.
But I caught them laughing one time, and I was, so I got my suspicions. We'll see. But
now your relationship with Alec Martinez is pretty well documented. 2 Michigan guys. I know you guys didn't grow up too far from each other, but I don't know how big of a Michigan football fan you were growing up, but pretty big week back in Detroit for football fans in that part of the country. You get the Wolverines winning the national title, and then just I think 6 days later, the Lions winning their first playoff game in like 30 something. I don't even think you weren't even born the last time they won a playoff game. So, how much have you two been kind of chirping guys in the room about your Lions and your Wolverines? And then I guess we get Brisson in the mix too, because he's a Wolverine.
Yeah, we've been pretty fired up. I don't think Marty's wore a single piece of clothing that hasn't been Lions for the past week. So, I was never really a football guy, just probably because we didn't really have the best team, and I got into fantasy football 3 years ago or whatever, and then I just kind of dove in. So I became a huge fan, and hopped on the Lions bandwagon. But I mean, we weren't too good. So this year is awesome to watch, and obviously Michigan winning the Natty Champ is pretty sweet. I know a lot of people that go to school there. They were sending me videos and stuff, and it was just outrageous. So definitely good for a hometown team. And I took Lions in our little team thing, but they lost my spread. So I think that was just the best loss I've ever had, I guess you could say, them winning.
Well, we got to finish up. We're getting the 2-minute warning from beside you there, but the schedule of gods were pretty good to us Michiganders this year. We're headed to New York. Chris and I are both be there for the full New York trip, and then I'm heading home to Detroit for the Wings game and to spend a couple of days with my family. Are you spending any time on the break with your family? And do you realize that if Green Bay happens to beat San Francisco, that the night after the Red Wings game, the NFC Championship game could be at Ford Field?
Way ahead of you. Me and Marty, and I think there was somebody else who said they wanted to go too. But yeah, we already got our tickets in the mix. So hopefully that happens. That would be unbelievable. That would be pretty sweet. So yeah, me and Marty have been crossing our fingers, and I think it's the first time in my life I've ever rooted for Green Bay. But if we can pull it off, that'd be pretty sweet.
Well, I'm a long-suffering New York Jets fan, so I'm living vicariously through you Lion fans right now. So I'm going to wear the Honolulu blue and silver someday.
There we go. Hop on the train.
All right, Paul. Thanks so much for doing this. We really appreciate taking time after practice. Have fun with Quickie tonight. Not too many of those nasty-ass dirty martinis. And if we don't see you between now and Saturday, we'll make sure that we catch up with you on the New York trip.
Perfect. All right, boys. Take it easy.
All right, guys.
All right, man. Thanks for jumping
Paul
on.
Cotter, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Paul.
See you, fellas.
That's going to wrap up episode 67 of Hockey Nights in Vegas. My name is Eddie Rivkin. I'm joined, as always, by Chris Chapman. The episode is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com, your home for everything Las Vegas, and by Dr. John Pierce at www.agelessforever.net, concierge medicine at its very finest. Our thanks, as always, to Garrett and India and Nate, the public relations staff at the Golden Knights, for letting Paul do the episode with us. We hope to be bringing you some more players and some more fun insight from behind the scenes of the Golden Knights, in addition to the regular content that we give you every week. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Tell us what you think of Paul Cotter. Tell us what you think about us. Tell us something. We need some more subscribers like we always do. But thanks, as always, for joining us, and we'll see you again in a few days. Thank you very much, everybody.